What does it mean to chase a destiny so fierce that it burns away everything else in your life? Picture yourself standing at a crossroads, the earth beneath your feet trembling with the weight of choice. One path stretches toward a quiet home, where the air smells of warm bread, and a soft embrace waits to hold you, comfort in every whispered word. The other path is a jagged mountain, its peaks lost in storm clouds, where the winds howl with ancient fury, and every step carves your name into the stone of history. Which would you choose, you, the one listening to this now? This isn't about right or wrong. It's about what you're willing to bleed for, what you're willing to lose to become more than you are. Over 200 years ago, Napoleon Bonaparte stood at that same crossroads, a man who conquered nations but couldn't conquer the heart of the woman he loved. He wrote to Josephine with a trembling hand, his words drenched in desperate passion, only to be met with betrayal. While he built an empire, mapping out a legacy that would echo through time, she entertained lovers in the glow of Parisian salons. And in that betrayal, he uncovered a searing truth. Most women don't want great men. Greatness is a storm, demanding, unstable, hungry. For many, that isn't love. It's a threat that shakes the foundation of comfort they crave. Here on Dark Psyphoria, we don't shy away from these shadows of the human soul. We dive into them, searching for the truths that hurt, the ones that transform. Napoleon's story isn't just history, it's a mirror for any man who's ever felt the sting of rejection while chasing something larger than himself. So, as we unravel this, ask yourself, which path would you take? Comfort or conquest? And if this resonates, if you feel the pull of these uncomfortable truths, join us. Subscribe to Dark Psyphoria. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, and your support means we can keep shining a light into these dark corners of the psyche. Let's walk this path together. Will scratches against parchment, the candle flickering in Napoleon's tent, casting jagged shadows on the canvas walls. The air is thick with the scent of gunpowder and ink, his breath shallow, hands trembling with a longing he cannot suppress. A longing for Josephine's loyalty, her warmth, a flicker of the love he pours into every word. But what does he receive in return? A cold betrayal, sharper than any blade. While he strategizes over maps, envisioning an empire that would stretch across continents, she entertains other men, her laughter echoing in the safety of her Parisian salon. The silence of her indifference grows louder than any battlefield. Napoleon, a master of war, a god of momentum, is reduced to pleading in his letters, begging her not to stray. She does anyway. Why? Because power doesn't seduce the heart the way predictability does. Power wins battles, but it rarely wins emotional loyalty. Napoleon saw this dynamic with imperial clarity, a clarity that cut through the fog of romantic idealism. Women are nothing but machines for producing children, he once said, not out of hatred, but out of a cold, calculated detachment. He wasn't dismissing their worth. He was reducing them to what he saw as their biological role, because, in his eyes, most couldn't rise beyond it. Most couldn't understand the storms that rage in the heart of a man who refuses to live a small life. Have you ever felt that disconnect, you who are listening? When your ambition, your fire, was met with resentment instead of admiration? Nietzsche once wrote, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." Napoleon lived this truth. His greatness didn't submit. It couldn't be contained in a quiet home or tamed by routine affection. And for that, he paid a price, one that echoes even now in the lives of men who dare to rise. Fast forward to today, and the air feels eerily familiar. You're a man who believes if you just work harder, become more successful, level up, you'll finally be loved. You stay up at 2 a.m., the hum of your laptop the only sound in the room, cold coffee on the desk, your eyes burning as you craft something no one else sees yet. A vision, a legacy, a piece of your soul. But Napoleon would laugh at your hope because he knew the bitter truth. The more exceptional you become, the less lovable you appear to those who crave stability over struggle. Picture a coder pouring his soul into an app that could change lives, his fingers trembling as he types, the glow of the screen illuminating the dark circles under his eyes. His girlfriend leaves because he missed another dinner, not because he didn't love her, but because his vision demanded every piece of him. Does that sound familiar? Have you ever been resented for your focus, your silence misinterpreted as emotional absence? Society pretends to celebrate excellence, but only when it's convenient, when it's entertaining, when it doesn't disrupt the comfort of the crowd. But a man with real power, real depth, real vision, he terrifies people, especially in relationships. Women, even those surrounded by greatness, often choose companionship over conquest. They gravitate toward men they can control, men who are grateful just to be there, mediocre men who don't make waves, who don't demand silence while they think, who don't disappear into obsession or sacrifice today for a future only they can see. These men don't challenge a woman, they orbit her. And to be the center of someone's universe is intoxicating. But for you, the man who seeks greatness, that kind of devotion is rare, almost impossible, because you don't orbit. You ascend, and in doing so, you threaten the foundation of modern relationships: comfort. Let's pause here, in the stillness of this truth. When did you last feel the weight of your ambition isolating you? Maybe it was a late night when you chose your work over a warm bed, or a moment when someone you loved looked at you with resentment instead of pride. Great men are mirrors. They reflect everything others are not. Their ambition reveals complacency, their silence reveals insecurity, their solitude exposes dependency. And for most people, that mirror is unbearable. To be with a man who needs nothing from you emotionally, who doesn't seek your approval, who isn't afraid to walk alone. That's not romantic. That's terrifying. It means you can't control him. You can't seduce him with softness or hold him hostage with affection. You can only follow or be left behind. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But what if becoming who you truly are means walking alone? Napoleon lived this contradiction. The man who could command armies was still seen as emotionally distant, too focused, too cold. But how else does one build an empire? How else does a man inscribe his name into the bones of history? He doesn't do it by sitting still and whispering sweet nothings. He does it by becoming more than a man, a force, a storm, a burning truth that cannot be contained. And in that transformation, he becomes less of a partner and more of a titan. The higher a man climbs, the fewer understand the air he breathes. Women want to be seen, to be heard, to be held. But a man consumed by a mission has no time to tend to the fragile needs of emotional validation. He's not cold by nature. He's hardened by purpose. Here's the twist that shifts the ground beneath your feet. What if the loneliness you fear isn't a curse, but a sign of your ascent? What if the silence you dread is the very power that transforms you? Napoleon didn't hate women. He simply recognized a truth most men are too afraid to accept. What a woman says she wants is often different from what she chooses. She may admire greatness in theory, but she marries convenience in practice. She praises ambition, yet builds homes with submission. And if you think love will protect you from this truth, ask yourself, why do so many brilliant, disciplined, self-made men get abandoned by those who once claimed to love them? Because love without understanding is a ticking clock. Most women don't understand what it costs a man to walk the path of discipline. The sleepless nights, the years of ridicule, the isolation, the blood, the grind. They see the result, but not the war behind it. And when that war never ends, when you keep climbing instead of settling, they begin to resent the very fire they once admired. So a man must choose, build an empire or build a nest. One will give him a legacy, the other warmth, but rarely both. In the shadow of mediocrity, a man is loved but forgotten, his days soft but small. In the light of greatness, he is feared, alone, but his name echoes through time. Napoleon chose the light, and it forced him into solitude, not because he desired it, but because he outgrew what the world offered in return for his obedience. You, the man who won't kneel, the man who burns at 2 a.m., crafting something no one else sees yet. You were never rejected for your flaws. You were rejected for your fire, for the intensity of your soul, for the fact that being with you meant she had to become more. And most are not willing. They don't want to rise, they want to rest. So don't envy the mediocre man. Pity him. Though he may be loved, he will never be respected. He will never be needed in the way that shakes the soul. He will be tolerated, used, perhaps even cherished, but never truly followed, because nothing about him leads. Step back with me to that crossroads we stood at in the beginning, the quiet home or the jagged mountain. Napoleon chose the mountain, and though it cost him love, it gave him immortality. His pain, his betrayal, his loneliness, they weren't the end of his story. They were the alchemical fire that forged his legacy, a fire that still burns in the hearts of men who dare to chase greatness. What about you? Have you felt this detachment, this moment where you realized your ambitions set you apart? Perhaps it was a quiet night when you chose your purpose over comfort, or a day when you saw resentment in the eyes of someone you loved, not because you failed them, but because you refused to fail yourself. Share that moment with us below. Let's hold space for these truths together, for the stories that shape us in the silence. You, the man who refuses to stop, who burns with a purpose larger than comfort, you were not built for a woman's warmth. You were built for a man's destiny. And yes, it will cost you. You may walk alone. You may die misunderstood. But if you stay the course, if you endure, the world will not forget your name. Because in the end, no woman builds statues. No woman rewrites history. Men do, bleeding, focused, unloved, but unstoppable. Think of the greats who came before you, men like Martin Luther King Jr., who marched for justice despite the threats to his life, or Steve Jobs, who revolutionized technology while facing personal isolation. Their legacies live on, not because they were loved by all, but because they dared to be dangerous, to be more, to carve a path where none existed. This is the path of greatness, and it's the path you're on if you're still here, listening, feeling the weight of this truth. This message reached you at the right time. Share it. Not for the algorithm, but for the soul who needs it next. The one who's standing at their own crossroads, unsure if they have the strength to climb. Let's stop surviving our inner world and start living inside it. Subscribe to Dark Psyphoria if you're ready to go deeper with us, to explore the shadows where healing doesn't shout, but whispers through your silence. Thank you for watching. Walk your path with quiet strength.